everyone, and welcome back to the United Star. I am Sid, as you all know, and today we have a very special guest all the way from Australia. We have Tom from the United Pubcast. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on our channel and giving us the pleasure to host you.
No, so first of all, thank you. It's a pleasure being on, and always Australia, India, or wherever, and always happy to chat United. So thank you very much for having me on.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Tom, we're going to talk about Oli today, as you know. So my first question to you is, we've signed Jadon Sancho and Rafael Varane, two world-class players for two essential holes in the squad. Do you think this summer so far, compared to the previous summers under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he has actually been backed with his first choice signings?
Yeah, no doubt. You have to look at it, and first choice, I think only Solskjaer will know that. We'll never be privy to what sort of list he had, but you just look at the names and the money spent. While Varane was relatively cheap considering how good he is, you do have to look at the names and say, yeah, they are first choice signings, and that means he has been backed. I think in terms of if it's a good window or not, obviously there could be sort of one or two more additions, which I'm sure we'll get into. But not only that, I think an important part of any transfer window, especially the situation we're in at the moment, is who leaves. Because I've still got a lot of players who you think, should they be at the club, shouldn't they be at the club? And if they do stay at the club, some of those players, it will limit the chances of other players coming in. So at the moment, it's a good window. It's on the right track, but there's still a long way to go. It is very exciting, but yeah, still a lot of work to do, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And, I think there's this one, there are still a couple of holes which we have to fill. But there is this one position which has the scrutiny of all the fans around, and that is a CDM position. So, as we all know, Manchester United actually maintained a title charge early this year, and in the middle of the season, before Man City just rushed up their second team into the first, and they won the league eventually. But do you think if we get that one CDM in, we can actually go ahead and maintain a much more consistent title challenge and probably end up winning the league?
On paper, it does look like that. It looks like if you're rating all those positions, now we've got our right winger, now we've got our centre back. Strike we'll definitely have. In future, Cavani's obviously got a need to be replaced in a year or two's time. But yeah, so at the moment, the one weakness, and look, depends who you're playing there. Fred and McTominay as a pairing, probably not great individually. I think both still have a future to play at United. But if you look at a weakness, yes, it is that defensive midfield position. My only issue, and definitely, so that means, in my opinion, go and buy a central defensive midfielder. The only issue, in my opinion, is I don't know which defensive midfielder out there we should be going to get. There's in terms of who I think is ideal, but then also who is available, who are we linked with at the moment. The links are really Ruben Neves, who I'm a very big fan of. And I think is he a defensive midfielder? I think he can play that role. But I also think, Donny van de Beek can play that role. It's not ideal, but he can play there. In terms of, I definitely wouldn't play him there. But that's how I see Ruben Neves. I see Ruben Neves far more advanced. He has the attributes to play in there. But I think, is there someone more suited? Like a lot of people throw out Wilfred Ndidi or Bissouma from Brighton, players like that. Saul Niguez is linked from Atletico Madrid, who I think would be a very good player, different type of midfielder. But are we really linked with him? Atletico Madrid going to sell? So while I see a huge need to go and buy a midfielder, especially a defensive-minded one, I just don't know which one there is. And we're not really linked with an obvious candidate, which makes it hard. And my sort of maybe pessimism says we probably won't get one, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel so too. I mean, we are linked to the likes of Eduardo Camavinga, who I don't think is a CDM. I think he's another box-to-box player, which increases the list of all the box-to-box players we have. Yeah, I absolutely. I completely agree with you. I do like Saul. There is another a colleague of mine, Vishesh, who also works on the United Star. He's a huge fan of Saul. He would love to have him at the club. But Neves, in my opinion, he's more of a luxury player. I think it's Moutinho who does all the work for Wolves, and I think Neves is the kind of player who gets all the credit. So I would take Moutinho over Neves. But even if we don't sign a CDM, we reached the Europa finals, which I think we should have won, but I think we bottled it. But do you think a trophy this season with the signing Ole has got is essential?
We've had this debate a few times on my podcast, and it's hard. Yes, ideally you'll say yes, it's essential. He does need a trophy. However, the term Solskjaer uses, and I use it quite as well, it's fine margins. I think we can say, yes, he needs to win a trophy and that's a success. And if we don't win a trophy, it's a failure. However, I want to put you in the situation and say, let's say a scenario we get 96 points and Manchester City get 97 points. Can we criticise United? If we get to a Champions League final and we've got an injury crisis and we lose to a bad VAR decision against PSG, we're one kick of the ball from winning the Champions League, but we don't win it and it's a failure. So, and ultimately, he will need to win a trophy. So he'll need to find a way to get that bit of luck and win a trophy. Sir Alex Ferguson used to be able to do that with sort of lesser squads and inferior squads. He could find a way to win a trophy. Solskjaer will need that. It might take a little bit of luck, and ultimately, his job might sort of depend on whether he sort of can cross that line or not. So I say yes, he does need a trophy this season, but it's not cut and dry for me. If we don't win a trophy, he has to be sacked. I'm definitely not in that camp because I think you need to evaluate it at the end of the season and see, okay, what came up in the season? What challenges were there? Were we in a position to win a trophy and we faded away? Or did we start bad and he really put up a title challenge and we were beaten by the better team? Because we're talking about there's such great business by Man United, Jadon Sancho, Rafael Varane. Well, what if City get Harry Kane and Jack Grealish? They're already better than us. Like, we're not in a position to win the league if they go and do that. So how can we criticise United for not winning the league? So it's a hard one. Yes, he does need a trophy, but you'd need to evaluate at the end of the season in regards to sort of weighing up his job security.
Right. So I was actually going to ask this towards the end, but now since we're already at the topic, what do you think should be done if he's not won anything at the end of the season? Assuming everything goes fine, and we have a Villarreal like game where we should have won and we just didn't.
Look, if he's in a position where it's not going right and we're nowhere near winning a trophy and it's a sort of a disappointing season, has a disappointing feel. Even, look, I'm a huge fan of Solskjaer. I've got the signed photo above my head of him. Absolutely love him. But, yeah, he's Manchester United. I don't want to see him sacked. But if it came to that situation where we did need a new manager and we needed fresh ideas, unfortunately, you have to sack him. I don't think we'll get to that situation. Or I hope we don't get to that situation. But ultimately, we are Man United, and he has been here a while. Now, I think he has had challenges and he has had to rebuild sort of a mess from Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho, which I don't think should be he shouldn't be accredited that time. That time should be sort of forgotten about, and his time should almost start from now or last season, pretty much. I don't think you can't take in that first half season where he came in because we're in an absolute mess. I don't think you can sort of weigh up that and sort of. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's 3 years since we won a trophy," but they include that half season type thing. I think that's quite harsh on Solskjaer. But ultimately, if we do have a poor season and not looking like challenging for any of the silverware, yeah, he would have to lose his job. You would have to, if a better managers are out there, because so often we sit here as Man United fans and football fans in general say, sack this manager, sack that manager. Mm-hmm. It's only half the question. Which manager are you bringing in? Am I bringing in David Moyes? Or am I bringing in Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp? It's not. You can't just say sack Solskjaer. Which manager are you bringing in? Are you bringing in a better one or a worse one? So it's a hard one. Hopefully, we don't get in that situation where he loses his job. But he's very much in the position this season where if things don't go right, he very well could do.
Right, and I think if Woodward still is the chairman, while when Ole is sacked, I'm pretty sure he's going to replace him with Wayne Rooney. Because he's the club legend and he has the Manchester United DNA in him. But all jokes aside, when Ole joined, right, you mentioned the half season. We all saw the first few games when he was on an unbeatable run. He played this 4-3-3 style. They had Pogba, Herrera, Matic in the squad. And that was a pretty good formation going forward. But unfortunately, he had to turn back to a 4-2-3-1, keeping Fred and McTominay as the two defensive midfielders with Bruno in front of them, which kind of forced Pogba on the left and, Donny van de Beek out of the team only. But do you think now, with the additional signings we've got, with a proper centre back like Rafael Varane, do you think he can still explore his ideal 4-3-3 formation, even if he doesn't get a CDM? And who do you think can actually go ahead and play that holding position in the 4-3-3?
Look, fingers crossed he does, because I think every United fan, look, I don't hate the 4-2-3-1, but yeah, it does have frustrations. I definitely hope he does move to a 4-3-3 like any other fan. In terms of who can play that position, in terms of the people we have there now, assuming we don't sign anyone, my ideal player in there is Nemanja Matic. Unfortunately, you can't rely on him to be the man over the course of the season. I think if it was a 26-year-old Matic, perfect. Other than that, look, I'm not a huge fan of Fred. I'm a much bigger fan of Scott McTominay. However, I don't like Scott McTominay in that role by himself. I think we see him as this physical presence. I think Scott McTominay is very good going forward. I think he does offer a big goal threat, and I think he can play that role. I almost trust him more than Fred, but it limits his game so much. I think he can really offer something going forward. So ideally it'd be Matic for me, but you can't really rely on Matic. So it could be a real sharing sort of season amongst Matic, Fred and McTominay. But if we don't have that midfielder, that new sign-in, okay, we do want to go to 4-3-3, but I think it very much could very well revert to another two sort of screening there, and then it would be sort of same old with Fred and McTominay.
Yeah, who knows? I hope we don't have that 6-1 game again this season. So, coming to all his players, we still have Edinson Cavani for another season. We have Martial back from his injury. So what do you think would be his, considering Rashford is going on surgery now and he'll be out for 2 months, what do you think would be Ole's ideal 11 should he go with the 4-3-3, the full squad?
Yeah, so look, I think the Rashford one's interesting because obviously I think he walks into the team, and that's up for debate whether he should or shouldn't. A lot of people sort of question it, and myself included. I'm a huge fan of him, but I'm very critical of him. But he does have the numbers to back it up. So I look at it and look, I'm a huge fan of Anthony Martial, but Martial just hasn't delivered in terms of performances and numbers, so he's rightfully been dropped. So I think, look, on paper you say Cavani through the middle, Rashford on the left, and Jadon Sancho on the right. However, from what I've seen of Jadon Sancho, he's very well suited to the left. So I think Jadon Sancho might start the season on the left-hand side and Mason Greenwood on the right with Cavani through the middle. Now, how that develops throughout the season, I think with the eye for Cavani leaving at the end of the season, are we going to see Greenwood maybe play more centrally this season, sort of deputise that role with Edinson Cavani? And that leaves the right-hand side open for whether it be Jadon Sancho or Rashford, or even, look, a lot of people won't like to hear it. And I'm not a huge fan of seeing this, but I wouldn't be shocked the first game of the season if Daniel James starts on the right-hand side, just in regards to we saw the attributes he had against Leeds last season and it worked, and there was a very strong reason to do that against Leeds. Now, I'm not saying Daniel James is going to be our starting right winger, but just in regards to getting the job done on the first day of the season, where teams aren't fit, Leeds are going to be a lot fitter than us, I feel, because a lot of their players weren't away at the Euros. We've had a sort of a disjointed pre-season. We're going to need legs. We're going to need fitness. So you could very well see a situation. I don't want to see this happen, but you could see a situation where Jesse Lingard and Daniel James are starting that first game of the season just from a point of view of they're fit, they've got legs, they can run, because Leeds run more than any other team. Now, I hope I don't see that throughout the course of the season, but it might be the way to go, unfortunately, for the first game.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. But do you think there could be a case for Anthony Olanga to start playing on the left? Because I think he's been brilliant in preseason. I think he's been one of our best players. So do you think he should get a run on the left? With Sancho on the right, Edinson Cavani through the middle?
Well, the left or the right, I don't really care. I said this on one of the last podcasts, just as much as I've praised Daniel James there. I think if it came a decision based on sort of pre-season, obviously Daniel James was away at the Euros, so he came back a little bit sort of tired compared to what Anthony Olanga would. But if you're going to reward performances, I would be starting Anthony Olanga over Daniel James now. I think he's got great attributes. I think he's probably technically a better footballer. He might not have the experience, but he's got the technical ability. He's a big boy. We think of Anthony Olanga as this. When he first came in, I saw a good player, but thought, good player. We have a lot of good players come through the youth team, but he'll sort of fade away. He'll go to his own. He'll go on loan sort of thing. But then you see him in the offseason, he's a big guy. He's physically ready, which a lot of players at his age aren't, and that's why they struggle to get into the team. So I think because he has that size, he might be able to find a way to get into the team. And in the moment, look, pre-season is about minutes. It's not so much about performance. But if you are looking at performance, if there's one player who is putting his hand up to say, I want to start this Leeds match, out of the senior players or the youth players, it probably is Olanga. So I would like to see him be used ahead of Dan James. Whether that is the case or not, that's a hard decision for Solskjaer, because it is hard. We do like to say place trust in the youth. It is a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing when Solskjaer's job, which we've just discussed, is on the line. He needs results. It is hard to place that trust. It's what made Sir Alex Ferguson so great. And it's a big risk. But I'd love to see Anthony Olanga start over Dan James, even for this first game against Leeds, because pre-season he deserves it at the moment.
Absolutely. So my final question to you, Tom, is what are the realistic expectations from Ole this season, considering this is the end of all our transfer activities? And like, what do you predict and how would you rate, all his seasons so far?
Look, it's hard what to predict. You can predict up and down. There'll be many ups and downs. It comes down, and I'm not going to say he should be sacked if we don't win a trophy, but my expectation is we do finally win a trophy, because it has been a long time now, and you do look at the names. Not even look at the names he's been given. Just look at our team now. That team should be winning a trophy when you compare it to other teams. Now, obviously, on paper, I always say this: football isn't played on paper; it's played on grass. And we do have a very shiny team on paper. They need to sort of put it into action. But you look at that, if we do, well, obviously we will get Rafael Varane over the line, but you just look at our players now, and look, Paul Pogba is a completely different debate. But you include Paul Pogba into any Man United team, yeah, you have to demand a trophy. I'm not going to say sack him, which I've just said. I'm not going to say sack him if we don't, but yeah, it would be a hard argument for me to say keep him if we don't win a trophy with this team this season.
Absolutely. And how would you rate Ole's the rebuild he's had?
Look, overall, since he's walked in, since he's come in through the door to now, I think very good. Now, there's obviously frustrating periods in that rebuild, which is part of a rebuild. There's going to be ups and downs, but I think he's been very good. I think just cast your mind back to the feeling when we lost away at Anfield under Jose Mourinho. Paul Pogba was sat on the bench. It was a horrible feeling. It was a real low amongst United fans. So considering that to where we are now, where we're signing one of the best young footballers in Jadon Sancho, we're signing a World Cup winner in Rafael Varane. It's a feel-good factor now. So I think the rebuild, I don't want to say 10 out of 10 because we haven't won a trophy yet, but I think when you weigh up everything in regards to behind the scenes, bringing in the likes of Darren Fletcher, which I think is maybe pivotal in getting these deals over the line, which we weren't able to do last year. This season we have been able to do, and it's the introduction of maybe a change of structure behind the scenes. Whether that's all down to Solskjaer, who knows? We'll never really have the final answer to that. But yeah, I think the overall rebuild since he's come in, I'd say a good 8 out of 10. I'm a huge fan of him. I understand the criticisms of him, but I'm a big fan. I think he's doing a good job.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Well, thank you, Tom, for coming on our channel. It was an honor to host you on our show, and I had so much fun talking to you. And hopefully by the end of the season, I can add a couple of more trophies right here behind me. I look forward to collaborating with you soon in this season. So thank you so much, Tom. Thank you everyone for watching. Yeah, sure. Sorry.
No, definitely a pleasure for having me. And yeah, definitely do it again. Hopefully when we're discussing a trophy or two.
Absolutely. So thank you, Tom, for coming on. Guys, if you like this video, please smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, share this video, and comment what you think are realistic expectations from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Manchester United this season. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our video. If you do like it, please click on the thumbs up.